I found her in a sprawling refugee camp called Al-Hol in northern Syria, which is home to 39,000 people, the majority women and children, the majority of those civilians who have fled ISIS areas. She had fled the battle in Baghouz in eastern Syria, which is concluding now, which is for the last territorial slither of the caliphate. She had fled that 2 weeks ago and turned up in Al-Hol camp. Nobody appeared to know she was there. No contact had been made with British officials or aid workers.
And when you were presented with her, did you know precisely who she was, or just that she was one of the 3 girls who'd left East London to head to Syria?
She spoke to me, she was veiled. She spoke to me in a London accent. I said, "You're a London girl, aren't you?" And she said, "I'm a Bethnal Green girl." And then I knew. So then we talked. There was no one else, just her and I. And I said, "Can you lift your niqab so I can see your face?" And she said, "Yeah, I'm Shamima Begum." Lifted her niqab.
And she told you that she wanted to come home?
She wants to come home. She said, "I'm desperate to get back to the UK." She's 9 months pregnant, going to give birth imminently, and both her infant children have died in the last 8 months in the ISIS pocket that's just collapsed down in eastern Syria.
Does she believe that she will be allowed home?
She doesn't know. She's very worried about it. She wants to come back to the UK to give birth to her child. Well, I think it's so imminent. I don't think that's going to happen. She doesn't want her 3rd child to die in Syria. She's worried that she'll be separated from her baby. She's worried she might go to prison. She doesn't know what her legal status is, and neither does anyone else.
And yet, Anthony, she didn't seek you out, and she made no effort in her interview to say, "I've made a terrible mistake, please forgive me."
Oh, no, she's an indoctrinated ISIS bride. People should be very clear-eyed about this. She's 2 things. She is the 15-year-old schoolgirl who was groomed and lured to the caliphate, and 4 years later, with that background, she's an indoctrinated jihadi bride.
There's something shocking hearing her describe seeing a severed head for the first time. Did she look like someone with any regrets about what she'd done, what she'd seen, what had been done in the name of IS?
She didn't express regret. She said she had no regrets. She was calm and composed, but she was also in a state of shock. She'd just come out of the battlefield, 9 months pregnant, many of her friends dead, through airstrikes and all the rest of it. So I wouldn't want to rush to judge her too harshly. And we must remember she's a 15-year-old schoolgirl when she left the UK. We must bear that in mind.
Do you believe it is possible, on the basis of the more than an hour that you spent with her, that if she were to return home, that indoctrination that you described could be undone, that she could return successfully to society in Britain?
Personally, having spent a lot of time with jihadis and jihadi wives, I think it's entirely possible that Shamima Begum could come back to the UK and, with some focused help, be able to re-assimilate into Britain and live her without being a threat to the country.
Of course, she went over with 2 other schoolgirls. Do you know their fate?
She went over with 2 other schoolgirls to join a 4th schoolgirl from Bethnal Green Academy. One of those girls was killed in an airstrike, I think at the beginning of 2016. The 2 other girls, married foreign fighters. Both those fighters were killed, so they became teenage widows. Both the surviving girls, Shamima told me, had elected to stay on in the last slither of the caliphate and face the final battle rather than try and escape.
She told you that caliphate is now over. Is it, in your view?
The caliphate is now over. I don't think there's any doubt of that. The vast territorial expanse and administration of the caliphate is over. That does not mean that Islamic State are over, nor that Islamic State will continue to exist in a form to which they've reverted before. It is true to say the caliphate is over. It is true to say Islamic State will remain.
You are a reporter, not a politician. But what would you say to people at home who might say, her choice, she went, she's not coming back?
I would say she was a 15-year-old schoolgirl who made a terrible mistake. She was a child of British society, and we must do our best to rehabilitate her amongst our own people.